The bride's devastating secret: what happened on their wedding night will haunt you forever. The night was supposed to be magical, the perfect beginning to a new life as husband and wife. But for Emily, it became a descent into terror. Swathed in a flowing white gown, she stood trembling at the altar, the bright lights flickering ominously. The music played, but all she could hear was the thunder crashing outside, as if the heavens were warning her about what was to come. Their vows echoed in the air, but a shadow loomed over the celebration, a secret buried deep within Emily's heart, a secret that threatened to consume them both. Then, as they sealed their vows with a kiss, the lights flickered again, plunging the room into darkness for a heartbeat longer than it should have been. Gasps rippled through the guests. Haloed by the faint glow of candles, a figure darted past the huge French windows, but when they turned to look, no one was there. Was it just a figment of her imagination? That chill ran along Emily's spine, an icy whisper that crawled into her mind. The reception was a whirl of laughter and clinking glasses, yet something felt off. The cake wore an eerie, lopsided grin, and the dance floor swayed with an energy that felt almost alive. Guests exchanged uneasy glances, the kind that makes your heart race, not because the stakes were high, but because something unexplainable, was lurking beneath the surface. Everyone was smiling, but Emily sensed their eyes. It was as if they were looking through her, searching for the truth, and then they were alone, just Emily and her new husband, Jake, shivering in anticipation. The wedding night, a dream seen through rose-colored glasses, turned into a waking nightmare. As they began to undress, a sudden thud shook the floor, reverberating through the room like a chilling siren. Emily's heart raced. What was in the shadows? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the silence, Emily felt the weight of the moment. What was that? She whispered, her voice trembling like a fragile leaf in the wind. Jake's gaze narrowed, shifting uneasily as if he were wrestling with a ghost of his own. The air felt thick, almost electric, and with every minute that passed, the shadows seemed to grow longer. Then came the haunting sound, a faint cry, muffled but unmistakable, echoing from the corner of the room. The scream was consumed by the winds outside, but the dreaded invoked clung to Emily's skin. She bit her lip, fighting back uncertainty as she moved closer to Jake. He grabbed her hand, but was it out of comfort or fear? The tension cracked like a thin layer of ice about to give way. What was hidden away that night, and would they ever uncover it? Emily's skin prickled, a cold sweat pooling at her brow. She looked up at Jake, his expression a mix of concern and confusion. The cry echoed again, this time louder. It was a mournful wail that clawed at her heart, a sound so chilling that it felt like it belonged to another world. "Did you hear that?" Jake asked, his voice barely audible, almost drowned out by the storm now raging outside. The rain lashed against the windows, each drop a reminder that they were trapped in this moment together and whatever was lurking in the shadows. "Why yes," Emily stammered, her mouth suddenly dry as sandpaper. She could feel the weight of the secret pressing down on her. The invincible memory clawing its way back, threatening to complicate the delicate web of happiness she had woven. "Maybe it's just the wind." Jake trailed off, trying to convince himself more than her. But Emily's stomach twisted. This wasn't just the wind, she knew that. With a shaky breath, she took a step toward the sound, but Jake tightened his grip on her hand, his knuckles paling. "Maybe we should just lay down," he suggested, desperation slipping into his tone. But Emily couldn't move. She was drawn to that corner like a moth to a flame. "Wait," she said. "Just, give me a second." She pulled free from his grasp and took another small step closer. Then another. Each step felt monumental, each heartbeat echoing in her ears like a war drum. The shadows danced wildly, taunting her as she approached. The noise resolved into something clearer, more coherent. It came from behind the antique wardrobe, its wooden frame imposing and ominous in the dim light. Emily hesitated, a lump lodged in her throat, then steeled herself. What if it's someone in trouble? She whispered, trying to rationalize the fear clawing at her. Jake's eyes widened. Emily, please don't, but her voice was lost in the noise that surged again, louder, more insistent. It felt like a plea, a desperate cry that demanded to be answered. With a surge of courage, she reached for the wardrobe and pulled it open, the hinges groaning in protest. The darkened cavity was an abyss, a yawning void that threatened to swallow her whole. A rush of cold air burst forth, chilling her to the core, and she recoiled, glancing back at Jake, whose face reflected horror and concern. That's when she saw it, a glimmer, a flash of something that shouldn't be there. Instinct kicked in, and she stepped forward into the darkness. She reached in, her fingers brushing against something soft. An old photograph? Her breath hitched as she pulled it out, the pale light illuminating the picture. It was a wedding photo, a woman in a flowing white gown, but that wasn't the shocking part. The woman looked eerily like Emily. Jake! She gasped, heart racing. But in that instant, the air shifted again. The shadows stirred, and dread slammed into her like a physical force. The cry continued unabated, and suddenly it was mixed with laughter, tinkling and sweet, yet laced with malice. Emily, Jake said, panic now etched all over his face. Get away from there. But it was too late. The wardrobe quaked, and then it began to shudder violently, as if something or someone was trapped inside. The doors swung open wide with a bang, and for a brief moment, Emily was frozen in place, horror unfurling within her. What had she unearthed? What dark chasm of the past was about to swallow her whole? Their wedding night had become a nightmare, and the true terror was just beginning. And as she backed away slowly, fingers trembling around the photograph, she whispered, "This isn't over." But as shadows began to twist into shapes, darkness closing in, she was left to wonder one haunting question: who or what was waiting on the other side? Emily's heart thundered in her chest as the wardrobe shuddered, the laughter mixing with the relentless wailing that enveloped them like a thick fog. Jake stood paralyzed by the door, his eyes wide and searching, darting between Emily and the abyss that seemed alive with menace. "What do we do?" he whispered, desperation clawing at his throat. The wind howled outside, rattling the old house as if it were warning them to leave. But with each breath, the air grew heavier, pregnant with something unholy. "I don't know." Emily gasped, blinking back, tears threatening to spill over. The photograph slipped from her fingers, fluttering to the ground like a fallen leaf. The woman in the picture stared back at her with haunting familiarity, the edges frayed as if time itself sought to erase her existence. A new sound punctured the air, a low growl. It resonated from the depths of the wardrobe, blending with the swirling shadows as if an unseen beast had been roused from slumber. "Emily!" Jake's voice turned sharp as he edged closer, his instincts taking over. "We need to get out of here. Now." But fear had rooted her to the spot. She couldn't just abandon the source of that cry, the source of the relentless pull that resonated deep within her. Was it her past or something worse? Rage, confusion, and terror spiraled within her, fueling her defiance. What if someone really is trapped? She implored, hating the tremor in her voice. And what if it's a trap? Jake shot back, every syllable tinged with fear. "You don't know what's happening there." The wardrobe thumped violently again, sending a shiver through her spine. The shadows coiled tighter, and with each echoing heartbeat, something sinister seemed to push against the fabric of reality. "I need to see!" Emily shouted, surprising herself with her conviction, and before she could second-guess her decision, she stepped forward defiantly. Jake lunged to grab her arm, but she twisted free. "Stay back!" she cried, heart racing faster than thoughts could catch up. With a deep breath, She gripped the edge of the wardrobe door and pulled it wider, the rush of cold air nearly knocking the wind from her lungs. The shadows poured out like smoke, crawling over her skin, wrapping around her, whispering promises of truths long buried. Then, in the swirling darkness, she saw it, a figure. Not just a shape, but a person, a woman with eyes that mirrored her own, dark and brimming with sorrow. The woman's lips moved, forming words Emily could almost hear, but the sounds dissolved into the wailing storm. "Emily. You must find me." The voice slithered like a sin, calling to the part of her that felt lost. "I am waiting," Jake was shouting now, fear radiating from him in waves. "Emily. Come back." The figure reached out, fingers stretching into the light, beckoning her closer. Emotion swept over Emily like tidal waves: fear, confusion, and a hunger for connection, for answers. Without thinking, she stepped forward into the churning darkness. Jake lunged again, panic-laden and full of anger. "No. Don't." But her feet wouldn't listen. They moved of their own accord, drawn into the whirlwind of shadows. She felt the cold envelop her. It was as if she were being pulled across a threshold, her world flickering like a faulty light bulb between reality and something altogether different. "Help!" she screamed, her voice barely a whisper against the cacophony. But the darkness consumed her words, merging her fear with the invite of the unknown. Suddenly, the figure flickered like a faulty projection, then vanished in a swirl of shadows, leaving Emily gasping in a void of silence. "Emily!" Jake's voice penetrated through the haze. She stumbled back, wrenching hard, and felt her back hit the solid frame of the wardrobe once more. The air crackled. Dread seeped into her bones as everything shifted. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had missed something vital. The image of the woman, her twin, her mirror, lingered in her mind, swirling like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. What was this calling? Who was the woman? And as the last flickers of laughter melted into silence, an unshakable sense of urgency surged within her. The slash of a thought pierced through the fog: they were running out of time. "Emily." Jake's voice trembled, and Emily's heart sank. There was so much left unanswered. But just before she turned to face him, something scuttled in the distance, a rustle in the darkness, a reminder that whatever awaited them wasn't done playing. "Did you hear that?" she breathed, dread pooling in her stomach, and somewhere in the shadows, a chilling reply echoed softly, teasing her with a laugh that chilled her to the bone. Find me. What lay ahead for Emily, trapped in this web of shadows and secrets? Emily's breath hitched in her throat. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice trembling as she scanned the dim shadows for a source. The rustle seemed to slither closer, an unsettling whisper of something making its way through the dark. Jake instinctively stepped in front of her, lantern clutched tightly in his hand. "Keep it together, Em. We need to focus." Despite his brave facade, the tremor in his voice betrayed his fear. The air felt electric, crackling with the whispers of a hidden horror. Emily's heart raced as she thought of the figure, the woman whose voice had seeped into her mind like a poison. She was real, she was waiting. "Jake, I think she wants me to help her. I have to know what happened." "No." Jake's eyes widened, panic flooding his features. "We can't just go barging in. It's dangerous." The darkness quivered, shadows darting around them like hungry specters. Emily could feel the tendrils of fear wrapping tighter around her heart. Yet the image of the woman continued to haunt her thoughts, pulling her like a puppet to the strings of an unseen force. "Then what do we do?" Emily's voice was shaky, thick with uncertainty. "We can't just stay here." The air shifted, and a low growl rumbled once more from the direction of the wardrobe. Alarm pulsed through her. "We can't ignore it anymore. Not after everything that's happened. Listen, please." Jake's grip tightened on her shoulders, his eyes fierce with a mix of protectiveness and fear. "We don't know what's out there. It could be nothing or worse. We're better off finding a way out, not digging deeper." Emily looked into his eyes, searching for the reassurance they used to hold. But all she saw was swirling dread. But what if it's my chance to understand? To find her? Understand what? He urged, almost pleading. What if confronting this pulls you deeper into whatever this is? Her heart sunk. Those words mirrored her own fears. But she couldn't just walk away. The call was too strong, it shattered her resolve. Jake, I need to. Before she could finish, another scratch echoed against the wardrobe. This one was louder, more frantic, and Emily swore she could hear a faint sob intertwined with it. Someone is in there, she whispered, determination igniting her voice. I can't leave them. Jake shook his head vehemently, desperation flaring in his eyes. Emily. It's a trick. Look at the last photograph, the woman. We have no idea who she is or what she wants. But the darkness thickened around them, the whispers turning malevolent. As if sensing their hesitation, something rose from the shadows, a figure emerging with a will of its own. The air froze as a face materialized, twisted in agony, a blend of shadows and fanged despair. Help, it croaked, a voice that sent a jolt of familiarity through Emily. Emily, get back! Jake shouted, his grip slamming her into a solid wall of protection. But it was too late. The figure's eyes met hers, sparking recognition that coursed through her like wildfire. Find me, the figure echoed, lips trembling, words morphing into an undeniable chaos. Emily felt the urge to reach out, torn between the safety of Jake's embrace and the pull of the dark figure. The shadows twisted around them, coiling like vines, each heartbeat echoing with urgency. It's our last chance. She cried, rushing forward, her instincts flaring. Jake shouted after her, but it was drowned out by laughter, the same chilling tinkle that previously wrapped around them like an unwelcome spell. She could see the woman's face merging back into the depths, its essence tearing at the edges. In that fleeting moment, Emily felt the ground shift and something beneath her shivered, alive and hungry. The atmosphere thickened, a crack of light splitting through the chaos, and then, darkness swallowed her whole. Emily! Jake's cry pierced the air, desperate and frantic. But nothing could save her now. She was lost to the shadows, but within that darkness came a whisper, a promise, an unbearable heartache. I am waiting. What would she uncover in the dark? Who would she face? Time and fate tangled as. Emily took a leap into unknown depths, like falling into a storm she never saw coming. And as shadows danced around them, a chilling truth began to unfold, that all secrets buried were waiting to be unearthed by her. What lay ahead for Emily must be confronted, and soon, the real horror would begin. Would she find her answers, or would they consume her whole? Emily's heart pounded deafeningly in her chest as she felt the shadows engulf her. Though her surroundings were pitch black, the echoes of despair surrounded her like a storm. The whispering voice lingered in her mind, I am waiting. It felt like a heavy weight, pressing against her soul, pulling her deeper into the void. With a sudden burst of clarity, she realized she was not alone. A chilling breeze swept through, brushing against her skin with icy fingers. The air thickened with the scent of damp earth and decayed wood, memories of fear wrapped around her like a shroud. Jake! She called out, her voice fraying at the edges, swallowed by an overwhelming silence. Shadows swirled, and for a fleeting moment, she thought she felt a hand on her shoulder. Emily turned, gasping as she stumbled backward. The darkness shifted, revealing pale outlines of a forgotten room, a faded floral wallpaper peeling at the edges, a cracked mirror reflecting nothing but a hollow void. She was not just lost, she was somewhere she had never been. Hello? She whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. No answer came, just an echo of her own voice fading away. The pull of the woman's voice, so familiar yet shrouded in despair, guided her steps. Each breath felt heavier as she called out for the figure once more. I'm here to help. Beneath her feet, the wooden floor creaked ominously, as if warning her to turn back. But Emily's resolve hardened. She gripped the memory of Jake's worried face, their shared laughter, the gentle strength in his embrace. She owed this to him, to save whatever remnants of hope might be left here. "Find me," the voice stirred again, now layered with urgency and pain. It echoed off the walls, wrapping around her like a noose. The air buzzed with anticipation, a dark promise lingering in the atmosphere. She stepped deeper into the room, feeling television static seep into her bones. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the dark, a slight silhouette against the flickering light of an unseen source. Emily squinted, her breath faltering. "Is it you?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. The figure wavered, its features obscured, yet the sadness in those eyes felt achingly familiar. "Emily," it whispered, the voice a twisted echo of the woman she longed to understand. As the figure stepped closer, a chilling realization washed over Emily. She was staring at her own reflection, distorted through the veil of darkness. "You shouldn't have come here," she warned herself, the reflection trembling like a flame, flickering in and out of reality. The deeper Emily probed, the more the darkness clawed at her mind, flickering doubts sprouting like weeds. "What do you want?" she pleaded as a desperate mantra, fear slinking closer with each pulse of her heart. "Find the truth," the reflection rasped, the shadows around it thrumming with an energy that felt alive, almost sentient. "You must uncover what lies beneath." Emily's limbs felt suddenly heavy, weighed down by fear and guilt. What truth? The unanswered questions about the woman, about her own life that she had pushed aside. A wave of memories crashed over her, moments of bliss sculpted into visions of despair she had tried to forget. "Emily, get out. Now." Jake's desperate voice broke through like a lifeline, pulling her back to reality. The shadows crackled as if in response, swallowing the promise of light, the flicker of hope. "Jake!" She jolted, racing back toward the darkness that had swallowed him too. The shadows screamed in protest, a cacophony of pain and anger soaring into a crescendo. As she fought her way through the shrouded chaos, the reflection's whisper lingered, a haunting promise etched in her mind. "Find me or lose everything." Just as light emerged at the edge of her vision, the shadows lunged, pulling at her with relentless fury. Emily stumbled, fighting to keep her footing, her heart clamoring wildly. What lay at the brink of that light? Would she truly uncover the dark secrets that intertwined her fate with that woman? She felt the void beckoning, and with a resolve she didn't know she possessed, she took another step forward, ready to confront what lay ahead. The weight of urgency pressed against her chest as she thought of Jake's safety. The past she couldn't shake. Was it the truth she sought, or simply a salvation she could never grasp? With a final tug of darkness, she was hurled through the light, leaving everything she once knew behind, and she couldn't shake the sense that the worst was yet to come. As the light enveloped her, Emily felt as if she were being torn apart at the seams. It was bright, blinding, and it gnawed at her like frigid waves crashing against a broken shore. In a heartbeat, the tumult of shadows dissolved, and she found herself sprawled on a cold, hard floor, gasping for breath. Panic flickered in her chest. She shot upright, scanning her surroundings. The light was dim here, casting long shadows that danced across the walls that looked familiar yet foreign. Could it be the remnants of the kitchen she grew up in? The same place she had long forgotten, deep within the recesses of her mind? "Jake!" she shouted, her voice hoarse and trembling. Silence answered back, thick and suffocating. A sickening feeling coiled around her stomach, tightening with every heartbeat. She tried to get her bearings, her mind racing. What had happened? How did she get here? Just then, a door creaked open across the room, and she whipped her head towards it. The chill of dread snaked its way down her spine. A figure appeared, silhouetted against the weaker glow behind them, and all she could see was the outline. A shadow. Was this apparition friend or foe? Emily, the voice, low and comforting, cut through the suffocating silence. It was Jake. Relief washed over her, only to be snarled by horror the moment she noticed something off. He looked different, disheveled, there were dark circles under his eyes, and his clothes hung on him as if they had been soaked and dried inside out. Jake! What's happening? Where are we? She scrambled to her feet, heart racing as terror flooded her system. But then she saw the gleam of something sharp in his fist. Fear twisted deep in her gut as she took a step back. Jake, please put that down. Emily, you need to listen, he said, voice shaking but somehow edged in resolve. There are things we didn't understand, things from our past. What do you mean? She felt her heart pounding in her throat like a war drum, threatening to choke her. He hesitated, those sunken eyes searching hers, as if looking for something lost. It's not just about the shadows. It's about who we were, before. What we were running from. A breath caught in her throat, memories flooding back in flashes, whispers of a wedding, promises exchanged, lingering nightmares, a debt to the past. The shadows from earlier took on form, clawing at the edges of her mind. Jake, you're scaring me. Panic blossomed anew in her chest, the weight of dread pushing her down. What are you saying? Find the key, Em. The one that unlocks everything, he urged, voice cracking under the strain of something long condemned. You have to face it. You cannot escape what you don't know. She shook her head, trying to stave off the emerging images, her wedding night, the chaos, the collapsing reality. Why was everything so foggy? As if barricades had been built in her memory, erasing faces and truths that felt so close yet stayed so distant. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the kitchen, rattling her bones. Her eyes shot toward the door as it burst open, revealing another figure cloaked in shadows, its movements jerky and predatory. Emily. It wasn't Jake. The voice was high-pitched, a wail that sent chills bouncing off the walls. You can't leave yet. She stumbled back against the counter, breath hitching as the figure lunged closer. The peril felt real, palpable, like icy fingers grasping her throat. Emily's mind raced. What is happening? Who are you? Don't you remember? The figure grinned, twisting its mouth into a sinister smile. Everything you pushed aside, it's all coming back. And it won't let you go. Adrenaline surged through her as the ravenous eyes bore down on her. Fumbling for an escape, her fingers brushed against something cold and metal hidden beneath the dust keys. Gripping them tight, she felt a spark of hope ignite amidst the despair, as if a door somewhere in her heart had just cracked open. I won't let you take me. I will find the truth. She shouted defiantly, but as she turned to face Jake, the gleam of terror in his eyes sent dread flooding back. What was he hiding? What truth lurked beneath his burdened facade? With a surge of power, she pushed past the haunting echoes and focused on the door. Let us find out together. She called, determination slicing through the darkness. As they shoved through the chaos, the figures loomed larger, shadows stretching to ensnare them. The darkness pulsed, alive and ready to strike. Would they uncover the secret binding their fates? Or would the shadows reclaim what once was and leave them lost forever? Go! Jake shouted, a fierce urgency behind him, but the wall of voices roared, drowning out everything. Emily clutched the keys, heart racing, a desperate bid for hope clashing with the abyss. The answers lay ahead, but could she find them before time ran out? With Jake beside her, one question echoed in her mind: what would they awaken? Unfolding into the uncertain chaos, a new darkness yawned open. Only time would tell if they could confront it or be swallowed whole. The shadows writhed, clawing at the edges of their vision as Emily pressed forward, dragging Jake behind her with a grip that felt like iron. The door stood like an ominous sentinel, but the darkness beyond pulsed and throbbed with a sinister life of its own. Your past is waiting, Emily. The high-pitched voice screeched from the corner, the figure's laughter echoing against the fractured walls of the kitchen. It felt like shards of glass carving through Emily's mind, seeping into her very bones. Each step toward the door was heavier than the last, as if an invisible weight bore down upon her shoulders. Don't listen to it. We have to stay focused. Jake urged, his voice raw and filled with urgency. But Emily was already caught in the thrall of swirling memories, the glimmer of her wedding ring, the echoes of joyous laughter, then rapidly twisting into screams and chaos. "Emily!" Jake shouted again, jerking her from the reverie. "Stay with me. The key, where is it? Focus." She looked down at the keys in her hand, cold and unyielding, a lifeline in a world turned upside down. "I don't know." She felt the tears prick at her eyes as panic clawed at her throat. "Everything is jumbled, I can't remember." The figure moved closer, its distorted face morphing in and out of the shadows, whispering secrets meant to drown her. "You think you can escape? The truth is buried here, behind locked doors. You just have to remember who you are." "Shut up!" Jake yelled, shaking his head as if trying to rid himself of its haunting presence. Listen. We've faced worse. We can do this, but we need the truth. Together. Together. The word echoed in her mind, like a lifeline in a storm. She closed her eyes, summoning the remnants of her memories, grasping for clarity. The night of her wedding, cloaked in happiness, but there was something lurking in the corners of her mind, haunting and bruising. A fragmented image of a masked figure, a piercing scream, the weight of a promise broken. "Wait," she breathed, an unsettling familiarity washing over her. "The attic, there was something in the attic. I saw something, I just don't know how to get there." "We can't stay here," Jake insisted. "Grab the keys and let us get out, Em." Summoning every ounce of courage, she stepped back, pushing through the shadows and the swirling dark figures threatening to pull her down. The door beckoned like a glimmer of hope, yet the air charged with a menacing energy. "The attic," she murmured, determination flaring up in her chest. "That's where I'll find the truth." The malevolent voice snarled in rage, and the shadows lunged, twisting and turning into monstrous shapes. "You can't escape your fate. Just keep moving," Jake shouted, pulling her closer as they charged toward the door. The icy fog clawed at them, wrapping around her ankles, trying to trip her as she fumbled with the keyring. "Stay back!" she cried, thrusting the keys into the lock as she felt the breath of darkness on the nape of her neck. Would they give in to the lurking shadows or break free? With a deep breath, she twisted the key, the sound echoing like thunder, a crack splitting the air. The door swung open. A blinding light spilled out, illuminating their anxious faces. For a moment, Emily felt everything freeze, the tumbling memories of the past colliding with the urgency of the moment. "Don't look back," Jake urged. "Just go." They stepped into the light, and the shadows screamed behind them, the echoes battling for survival as the door slammed shut. For a mere heartbeat, there was silence. But then, the light began to shift, morphing into different hues, unsettling shadows creeping in from the corners. They were not safe yet, the truth awaited them still. What if the attic holds something worse? Jake whispered, eyes wide with concern. "Then we fight," she answered resolutely. "Together." As they ventured deeper into the shimmering glow, anticipation hung thick in the air. They knew somewhere ahead, the key to their past lay waiting. But a sense of dread washed over Emily. What awaited them would either unlock their memories or unleash their darkest fears. With every step further into the mystery, the shadows loomed larger, and the real question began to pulse in the back of Emily's mind: what were they about to uncover, and would it shatter their fragile bond forever? The light enveloped them, at first warm and welcoming, but soon it grew cold, a shiver racing down Emily's spine. They were no longer in the kitchen. No longer trapped by the suffocating darkness. Instead, they stood in a hallway illuminated by an eerie glow, stretching endlessly both ways. The boards creaked beneath their feet, whispers echoing around them as remnants of the shadows pinged off the walls, searching for a crack to re-enter their world. "Where are we?" Jake's voice trembled as he scanned the hallway, trying to shake off the chaos that still danced at the edges of their vision. Emily felt the weight of uncertainty press upon her. "I think this is where the memories are stored." It feels wrong. The moment she spoke, a distant wail pierced the air, echoing through the dimness, making her skin crawl. It was the kind of cry that sent chills through the heart like a warning bell ringing out. What was that? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe it's a clue, Jake suggested, his eyes narrowing. We need to follow it. It might lead us to the attic. Or into a trap, Emily countered, panic simmering just under the surface. What if we uncover something we're not ready for? He said firmly, taking her shoulders in his hands, locking eyes with her, a fierce determination in his gaze. Whatever it is, we face it together. We can't turn back now. With a shaky breath, she nodded, her resolve strengthening. They took a cautious step forward, the hallway breathing around them, becoming alive with every movement they made. Each footfall slipped through the fabric of eerie echoes, leading them closer to the source of the CRY. As they advanced deeper into the hallway, Emily's heart raced. It grew louder, an agonizing, heart-wrenching sound, akin to a soul in torment. Memories flashed in her mind, faces appeared from the past, each one unraveling a piece of her shattered existence. Then she saw a door at the end of the corridor. It stood slightly ajar, a flicker of light spilling out, casting ominous shadows on the floor. Look, Jake pointed, eyes wide with glimmering hope, if we can just get to that door, we might find the truth waiting inside. The wail crescendoed, a deafening symphony of grief and despair. We have to hurry, she urged, urgency propelling her forward. They broke into a run down the hall, the shadows swirling around them, clawing at their ankles, trying to drag them back to the darkness. As they approached the door, something caught Emily's gaze, a flicker in the corner. A shadowed figure stood just beyond the threshold, watching with hollow eyes. Terror struck like a lightning bolt through her body. Stop! She shouted, halting Jake in his tracks. What is it? He asked, tension tightening his shoulders. That figure, it's familiar. I can almost remember. Emily felt her heart hammer in her chest. She squinted against the bright glow. The figure began to morph and shift, revealing fragments of a face she once knew, a haunting smile twisted in sorrow. No. Not now. Jake said, a plea in his voice. We can't get lost in the memories again. With every ounce of will, Emily turned her back on the specter as it dissolved into shadows once more. They couldn't be distracted, they were too close to the truth now. They threw the door open, the light pouring over them like a wave, washing away the despair that clung tightly. Inside, the attic loomed, a chaotic collection of memories, a jumble of boxes piled high, waiting, but as they stepped closer, the sound of metal clinking against metal echoed ominously in the space. Emily's stomach somersaulted. Do you hear that? Jake asked, his breaths quickening. Yes, she replied, dread pooling in her chest. The noise grew louder as they edged closer to the heart of the attic. And then they saw it. A locked trunk, secured tightly with chains, the source of the ominous sound. Whatever was inside seemed desperate to be released, a gasp, a soft plea. What's in there? Jake whispered, dread creeping into his voice. A feeling of sickening realization washed over Emily. The truth, a decision hung heavy in the air. Open it, or leave it chained. The desire to know battled against the fear of the unknown. The shadows swirled dangerously near, closing in, urging them to act, to finish this once and for all. Locked away or exposed to the light, what lay at their fingertips could unravel everything. Dare they embrace what was hidden in the darkness? As she approached the trunk, heart pounding, the real question lingered, were they ready for the secrets buried within? Emily's hand trembled as she reached toward the trunk, the chains glinting ominously in the light. Each link seemed to whisper threats from the dark, pulling at the edges of her sanity. What lay locked away was a promise and a danger that could consume them both. Wait, Jake said, his voice strained with unease. What if it's worse than we think? Or what if it's everything we've been searching for? Emily shot back, desperation gripping her. She didn't want to face another moment lost in uncertainty, another lifetime of regret. Still, as she touched the cold metal, a sharp chill shot through her fingers, sparking a memory she hadn't fully grasped. It flickered like a dying light bulb, a moment from the past, a promise, a covenant lost. "Jake, I feel something. Like it's pulling at old wounds." She hesitated, feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching from the shadowed corners of the attic. "What if it isn't just your memories? What if it's—" he paused, glancing around nervously. "What if it's something more?" The trunk rattled violently as if sensing their fear. The sound echoed ominously, rising in pitch, mimicking the wail they had heard before. It was as if the walls were alive, vibrating with anticipation. Emily's pulse quickened, echoing the frantic rhythm of their surroundings. "This isn't just a trunk, it's a prison," she said, her breath hitching. "Whatever is inside, it's been trapped for far too long. That makes it dangerous," Jake argued, eyes darting toward the dark recesses of the attic. "We could be releasing something we can't control. But if we don't open it, we might never find the answers," she insisted, her heart racing. The cold weight of the chains under her fingers seemed to beckon her, whispering promises of truths long hidden. A sudden crash resounded behind them. Emily jumped, spinning around to see shadows flitting along the walls, their shapes twisted and grotesque, feeding off their fear. Panic surged through her veins. "What was that?" Jake murmured, his voice edged with dread. "I don't know, but we can't stay here," Emily said, yanking stubbornly at the chains. They rattled like the distant cries of lost souls. "If we're going to confront whatever is lurking, we have to face it head-on." Jake swallowed hard. "All right, on 3. With determination, they counted down. 1, 2, 3. As they pulled together, the chains snapped with a sharp clank, the noise reverberating through the attic. It felt as if the very air had thickened, pressing down upon them, a prelude to the chaos that was about to ensue. The trunk popped open, revealing a haze of swirling darkness and a single, tattered wedding dress, draped over something unseen. As the fabric unfurled, Emily's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just a forgotten garment. It was a vessel of hidden horror, a link to the past she thought was buried. The moment the dress touched the light, the air shifted. The cries crescendoed into a frenzy. Faces appeared, blurred and anguished, reflecting her own turmoil. They seemed to reach out, warning her of something unspeakable. "Emily!" Jake shouted, grabbing her hand. "Get back!" Before she could react, the shadows erupted from the trunk, swirling like a storm unleashed. They surged toward her, tendrils grasping and curling around her ankles, dragging her back into the suffocating darkness. "Jake!" She screamed, panic raw in her throat. He fought against the shadows, trying to pull her free, but it was an uphill battle. As they struggled, the whispers grew louder, echoing secrets of heartbreak and betrayal, promises shattered on the altar of misinformation. "Don't let go!" Emily cried, the weight of the past bearing down on her, threatening to consume her whole. In that moment of chaos, something clicked in her mind, a memory rushing back, sharp as glass. The wedding night, the vows, what had truly happened. "Emily, please. We need to get out now." Jake's voice broke through, desperation fueling his strength. But the more they fought, the more the shadows tightened their grip. Emily could feel the weight of truth hovering just beyond her. Reach, taunting her. What if releasing her past tore them apart forever? "Open your eyes, Em. Remember who you are." Jake yelled, his voice a lifeline amidst the turmoil. As darkness clawed at them, Emily knew one thing: every choice had its cost. Would she embrace the truth hidden within the trunk, or let it pull her deeper into the shadows? With a sudden clarity piercing through the chaos, she took a deep breath. "I can't walk away from this. Not anymore." As she wrenched the dress free, the shadows screamed, enveloping them in a swirling tempest. The air crackled with energy, and with one final effort, she shouted, "Show me." The moment felt as if time suspended, and then it all changed in a blinding flash that threatened to push them beyond their limits. But what would they discover when the dust settled? Would the truth heal or destroy? Emily held on tightly, clinging to the hope that perhaps this had all led them to find redemption or perhaps unearth deeper curses buried within. With a deafening crack, the surge of energy exploded like fireworks, and the darkness began to dissolve around Emily and Jake. The enthralling panic subsided slowly, as blinding light surrounded them, erasing the malevolent whispers and suffocating shadows. Plunged into a bright, wide-open space, the chaos faded to an echo. They stumbled out of the remnants of the trunk, breathless and disoriented, and found themselves in the old, familiar church from their wedding day. The altar stood pristine, the sunlight flooding through stained glass, weaving colors across the pews. But something felt profoundly altered. "Are we back?" Jake gasped, rubbing his temples as if trying to wipe away the blur of darkness from his mind. "But why?" Emily scanned the sanctuary, confusion pooling in her chest. Was this a mirage, another trick of the shadows? She felt the weight of unspent tears tracking down her cheeks. Faced with the sight of a wedding day gone wrong, everything came flooding back: the laughter, the whispers, and that dreadful thunderstorm raging outside. "Emily, it feels like a haven," Jake observed, stepping forward but keeping his gaze slightly averted. "But I can't shake this feeling. Something doesn't fit." It was then that Emily spotted a figure lingering by the altar, silhouetted against the light. Her breath hitched in her throat as she recognized the woman from the photograph, the echo of her own haunted past. The woman wore a wedding dress, eerily similar to Emily's, the fabric flowing ethereally as if wishing to reveal an untold story. "Find me," it whispered, eerily soft yet cutting. "You're meant to confront the truth." Fighting an urge to retreat, Emily stepped closer. "Who are you?" she asked, voice trembling with the weight of recognition. "Why won't you let me go?" The figure tilted its head, eyes glistening with sorrow. "You are me and I am you. Bound by secrets and choices unmade." Jake's hand found hers, squeezing gently, grounding her. "Emily, we need to stay focused on the truth you seek. Let her guide you." Swallowing the lump in her throat, Emily took a deep breath. "What secrets do you carry?" In that heartbeat, memories washed over her like crashing waves, thoughts of the night she feared so deeply wrapped in a warm embrace of clarity. She understood now. The shadows didn't merely represent darkness, they were her fears, her guilt about running from her past instead of embracing it. The incidents that haunted her weren't mere phantoms, they were events woven into her very being, errors to mend instead of run from. "Your heart yearns for answers, marry the light and the dark," the apparition urged. "Forgive yourself, and forgive those who have wronged you. Only then will you find freedom." Tears streamed freely now as the weight of the world slipped from her shoulders. In that moment, the flashes of the sad wedding night became a mosaic of healing. She saw the pain of betrayal, the anguish of missing courage on a day meant for love. The echoes of laughter faded, replaced by the sound of introspection. "Together, we can heal," she asserted, turning to Jake. He met her gaze, and in it, she saw acceptance, a willingness to forgive their demons. "I'm ready. I'm ready to stop running." The apparition smiled softly, a glimmer of hope sparkling in her eyes. "Then you shall reclaim what is yours." With newfound resolve, Emily walked toward the altar, arms open as if to embrace everything she feared. "I accept you, all of you. Every tear and every plea for closure." As she spoke, the shadows flickered like candle flames, shrinking into non-existence. Light filled the room, warm and sweet, illuminating the forgotten corners of her heart. Jake stood beside her, grounding her, fortifying their connection against the rising threats of doubt that had chased them for so long. "Emily, you did it. We've found the truth," he whispered, pride echoing through his voice. A rush surged through her as she felt the shadows dissipate, replaced by a tranquility that coaxed her spirit. She had faced the darkness, and in doing so, she had reclaimed herself. That eerie visage of the past stood before them, slowly dissolving like mist in the morning sun. "Now go live," the woman's voice whispered softly before disappearing, leaving nothing behind but whispers of a past healed. As they stepped away from the altar, Emily turned towards Jake, his eyes brimming with warmth, shadows no longer abounding like uninvited guests. They had each other hard-won and steadfast. Together, she promised, heart racing with a newfound clarity. Yes, together, he agreed. With fingers entwined, they walked out into the daylight, leaving behind the remnants of fears that once shackled them. The wedding day they had long envisioned could still be theirs, rebuilt, remade without the chains of darkness binding them. "Let us create new memories," she smiled softly, bringing startling warmth to her heart, starting with the truth. Hand in hand, they ventured forward into a world filled with endless possibilities, their shadows finally laid to rest. But before the sunlight fully enveloped them, the last echoes of the past were suddenly replaced with a gentle reminder that lingered sweetly: find the light that felt like the birth of a new beginning. Don't let this be the end. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any of the exclusive stories coming to the channel. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others find this journey. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and reactions about the conclusion. Let us hear your theories. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of facing their fears. Your support is crucial. Let us build this amazing community together.